Hello, this is Michael Griffin for Art of Outdoor Survival. This is part 3 of Fractal Geometry, the Patterns of Life, and I'm showing you how to go find fish in a river anywhere in the world. So go back and watch part 1 and part 2. This is going to be a very short video here, but the best thing to do to learn this very easily, you need to go find a park. Go find a park somewhere that has a creek running through it. It's no bigger than, say, something that you can actually jump across to the size of, you may have to jump over a rock and then jump across something very tiny, something that would have different little tiny creeks coming into it as well that might be as big as your foot, maybe 2 feet wide. And the reason I want you to do this is because if you can go and watch that stream, find the beginning source of it, and start walking all the way down until it ends the park, and focus on the stream as if you're a giant and you're looking down. You know, you're taller than the trees, you're taller than the fish in the water, and you're looking down as if you're looking into a major river. You have that concept in your head when you do this. And think of the little darters and the minnows that are probably going to be about this big, this big. Um, think of those as salmon in a river or catfish in a river or something that maybe huge. And when you have that understanding and you watch what's going on in those little creeks, you can see how fish relate to certain environments very easily. So when you go on big water, you instantly know what's going to end up happening. And where those fish generally going to be. Those little fish are doing basically the same thing that big fish are doing in the river. And you can take a child, you can take your wife, and y'all can sit out there in the park having fun, discovering what the actual fish are doing and how they relate to currents, how they relate to little branches that you can consider trees in big rivers, how they get up under the eddies of the bank. But if you see that, it makes it very easy to understand how to relate that to a major river. This is a fractal geometry pattern. This little creek is the same thing as you see in a big river. And if you remember, the things you want to focus on, you remember, I had in the other video, you want to focus on runs, you want to focus on taper runs, you want to focus on riffles, boulder riffles, elevation drops, pools, and it goes back to runs. And watch these fish as they're in the pools, or if they're in the runs, or take your hand and put it in the soil and analyze the soil. What kind of soil it is that you're actually finding in the riverbank and or the smaller creek bank. And don't forget about try to look for the river that's inside the river. This is the river, and there's a deeper channel that's running through. And watch how it digs out holes as it bends. Watch for the sandbank. And these little footbridges, you can consider a footbridge at a park or something that might actually be crossing, or a pipeline that may actually be crossing. And you can see that they're creating little islands, just like the islands do, or the bottom of the foot of the bridge. And so when you get a better understanding of how fish are relating in a creek, you know, small enough that a child can literally jump across, you can transfer that knowledge that you're seeing those fish and how they're relating to it. You can transfer that knowledge all the way back to the big river, anywhere in the world, and you're going to have a basic understanding generally what fish do. You can do this in several parks so you can see different aspects. You might want to go on a mountain stream park. Focus on how the waterfalls fall. These waterfalls may be this big. They may be this big. They may be this big. But focus on how they actually drop. And then you might want to go to the hill limbs, the foothills, and focus on how those. And you'll see the same pattern. It's going to be a little bit different. And then sometimes on a good park, you'll have mountain creeks that are very miniature. They'll go into a foothill, and then they'll go down in a swampy little area. And those swampy areas are good to watch as well because you won't see the elevation gain as much, but you can understand how a tidal or a river swamp system will work. You won't really see the waterfalls running through there, but if you walk through there with hip boots or just surfer boots or whatever, um, you can kind of see how the water waves over, rocks that are probably going to be about this big, but rocks like this in a tidal river or a sandbank, you can see how the water reacts. Like when it goes, there's a sandbank here, and then all of a sudden the water hits a deep pool and it hits that and it comes up and creates a bowl. You can see that in a swampy little area of the park. So if you can find a park that has a little bit elevation gain, a little bit of slack, like in the foothills, in a kind of a swampy area, you can learn this river system very easily, transfer it anywhere that you want to, and easily catch fish by spearing, by netting. Um, you won't really want to understand what the fish are doing and what they're eating. Then you're going to have to pay a little bit more attention to detail to that. Once you get that basic understanding, you can go anywhere. Always focus small in your brain and then transfer it to big. And it's the same exact fractal geometry pattern. It's the same thing anywhere in the world. I promise you that. And spend a lot of time studying small, but when you go to the big, it doesn't look big. It doesn't go. It's not overwhelming. You're not sitting there going, "Wow, where do I go? What am I supposed to be doing?" It's just too much to look at. And actually, when you look on the map, I want to point out a last thing. Highway map, very not detailed at all, but they'll have the rivers running through them. And you'll see the system on a highway map where you'll see the bends in there. And a lot of times they'll actually show waterfalls. They'll show it by drawing a straight line across and they'll say waterfalls. And that way, instantly, you're looking at a highway map, you can look at your river and go anywhere just by looking at the map alone and transfer and say, hey, there's a major bend there. There's 5 to 6 bends in a small area. Let me go experiment down there and see where those fish are hanging out, if it works the same way as the creek. And when you do that, you learn a lot very quickly. And it'll never be a guessing game anymore. You never will just go sit on the bank and throw your line in there and expect, sooner or later a fish is going to come. That's just not true. But you learn the system of fractal geometry, and you can apply this to animal trails. You can apply this to spiritual life. You can apply this to rivers. You can apply it to your own life as highways, just certain patterns that we keep following day in and day out. Thank you. This is Michael. I hope you enjoy this. Bye.